Around the Hate Crime Act, I think every single person recognises that there's been an increase in hatred, not just in the UK, but right across many parts of the world. And that's why a piece of legislation that protects people and some of our most marginalised groups, while at the same time protecting those fundamental values like freedom of expression, I think that legislation is something we should all be proud of.
Well, this all started 3 years ago when the SNP government in Scotland decided to bring in a new hate crime law. Apparently, we didn't have enough hate crime laws, enough people weren't being protected. So they brought in this new law to protect, among other people, trans people. Didn't interestingly protect women. There's another law coming on that, we're told. But under this law, it makes it a hate crime to do things like misgender a trans person. I would dispute the term misgender. I would say to correctly gender a trans person, not to be abusive, not to be attacking or threatening in any way, but simply to say a trans woman isn't a woman, a trans woman is a man. Statement of, well, biological fact. Now, this law came into force on Monday, 1st of April, also, ironically, April Fool's Day. And this prompted JK Rowling, who has been a warrior queen on behalf of women and our rights and our safety, to post a whole series of tweets on X, as it's now known, which she, well, rather strangely, was claiming that 10 very prominent trans people were women, including a double rapist, Isla Bryson. You remember, was in the news when Nicola Sturgeon was talking about putting trans women, i.e. men, into women's prisons. Well, it all sort of ended with JK Rowling saying, ha ha, this is all an April Fool's, because of course all of these people, including some celebrities and model and, I say, convicted rapists, of being, well, they're just men, she says, they're men. And she made it very clear to Police Scotland that under this new hate crime law, they could come and arrest her. She even put the hashtag arrest me and said she was looking forward to them visiting. So basically goading the Scottish police to come and arrest her for stating what she and I would agree is a fact. This is the trouble with a lot of these laws, and I would say hate crime laws generally, actually. Of course, no one should be allowed to be abusive to or threaten someone who is trans or someone because they're a woman or because they're black or because they're gay or because they're disabled. I mean, you name it. No right-thinking person thinks that's acceptable. And we know JK Rowling doesn't think that's acceptable because she has posted on Twitter nothing but kindness and respect and welcoming attitude towards people who believe they are born in the wrong body or want to live the identity of the opposite sex. She simply stated, you can do that, you can wear what you want. She said, you know, love whoever you want, go to bed with anyone who'll have you, she's tweeted. But that doesn't make you, if you are born a man, a woman. It doesn't make you, if a woman, the other way around. It just doesn't make it true. And Orwellian it's a term that is overused an awful lot, but this really is Orwellian. It is requiring people with the thought police, effectively, to say something which they know not to be true. I know that a man is not a woman. I know that a man cannot become a woman. I know that a trans woman, which is a man who chooses to live as a trans-identifying man, as a woman, is not a woman. To require me to not correct people when they say there's something that's wrong, or to require me to say that, is Orwellian. I mean, it's the sort of thing, that Stalin made people do in the Soviet Union, and it is deeply debilitating and wrong. And it's not just about the words. This isn't just about who says what on Twitter. If it was, then we could all laugh it off and carry on with our day, or eating the leftovers of our chocolate Easter eggs, which is what we all really want to do. But what it is about is actually about women's rights. So no one's saying that trans people shouldn't have rights and shouldn't be treated respectfully and safely. Okay, this is about, though, when trans rights basically stomp all over women's rights. So, for instance, women's and girls' rights to toilets and changing rooms that are for them only, so not to be intimidated by a 6-foot bloke walking in, whether he says he's a woman or not, still intimidating. For us to have women's refuges, places where women who suffer from domestic violence can only be with other women. Extraordinarily, a charity in Scotland has allowed a trans woman, a man, to take the top job in that area. For women who are behind bars, whether they've committed a heinous crime or not paid a fine and they end up behind bars, not to be put in a prison cell with somebody who is a man. who is by definition a threat to them. I mean, these are such basic things that women fought for not just decades, but centuries, which are being thrown away, thrown out the window by trans rights. And where you have two sets of rights that compete with each other, the debate should be, well, whose rights trump whose? And I would say women's do. I think JK Rowling, like many of the campaigners, Sharon Davies, the Olympic swimmer, Maya Forstater, Helen Joyce, just fantastic campaigners on this issue. I think everyone is just fed up. We've had it up to the eyeballs and we've had enough. And many of us have been discussing this for quite some time. But you know what? We'll go to prison if necessary. You can arrest us, give us a criminal record. We don't care anymore. We're not prepared to take this lying down anymore. Look, I think JK Rowling would love the police to turn up at her mansion. But I think, given that she is now our warrior queen, fighting for women's rights and safety, she's our Boudica, leading our tribe, there would be not dozens, not hundreds, but thousands of women who would turn up at her door and say, yeah, fine, put the handcuffs on me as well. And there would be millions more, and not just women, many men as well, would also back JK Rowling. I think the Police Scotland would be very, very foolhardy to actually put the handcuffs on JK Rowling, because it's what she wants. She will expose the madness, the insanity of this new thought police law. It's not about hate crime. It's about basically criminalizing people for stating biological facts and verifiable truths. And I'm sorry, I don't think any sensible Scot, Welsh man or woman, or English man or woman thinks that that is what we need in our country. The trouble with the other party leaders, that this is an SNP law, but it was supported by other MPs of other parties in Scotland. But Keir Starmer has stated, he thinks that 99.9% of women don't have a penis. Well, that implies that tens of thousands of women, in inverted commas, do, which is an abject load of nonsense. No woman has a penis. That's pretty much the definition of what a woman is. But he speaks out on these things. But Labour MSPs in Holyrood voted for this new law. Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister, as you say, he says very fine words about how he supports JK Rowling, but he's just the latest in a long line of Tory Prime Ministers since 2010 that have overseen the huge erosion of our freedom to speak out on these issues, and allowed trans lobbyists like Stonewall into government, advising, training the police, our civil service and elsewhere about these issues, basically undermining women's rights. So I think, frankly, it's a bit rich for any other political party to say that they're on JK Rowling's side, because you know what? This is ostensibly about words, but it's not really. It's about actions. And if you don't stand up for what you believe and the words you say, they don't really count.